Mr. Mayor, we're ready to start.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting on October 4th. And I want to call this meeting to order. And please join me right now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Grothels?
Here.
Councilmember Pappen is absent due to an excused absence. Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla?
Here.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Here. Thank you. All right. Due to a health order that's in place currently, we are holding meetings remotely. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of each published agenda. When public comment is announced for the item you wish to comment on, when signed on to Zoom, use the raise your hand feature and you will be called upon at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and then when you're called upon, *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close public comment period for that specific item. All right, so we're going to start things off with two ceremonial items. And the first is a proclamation we have for World Mental Health Day. And I'd like to introduce Sarah Mitchell from the CEO of Star Vista. And I believe we have our Ed Barberini, our police chief. Let me first read the proclamation, and then I will hand things over to you, Sarah and Ed. All right, whereas mental health is essential to personal well-being and is fundamental to achieving a healthy, balanced, and productive life. And whereas mental illness, like physical illness, is a medically treatable condition that can develop in anyone, and those who experience mental illness can return to good health. And whereas adults and youth experiencing mental health conditions often face rejection, bullying, and discrimination because of negative stigma, thus making their road to recovery more difficult and delaying individuals seeking treatment earlier. And whereas Star Vista works to address the mental health needs of San Mateo County by providing essential education, treatment, and services around mental health, crisis, intervention, and suicide. And whereas Star Vista has been providing critical mental health services in San Mateo County for 55 years, was the county's first crisis center and third crisis hotline in California, and have been at the forefront of meeting the needs of our most vulnerable community members. And whereas today Star Vista serves over 40,000 individuals annually through over 30 counseling, crisis prevention, youth housing, and outreach programs. Now, therefore, I, Eric Rodriguez, Mayor of the City of San Mateo, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 10th, 2021 as World Mental Health Day, signed Eric Rodriguez, Mayor. And I want to hand things over to Star Vista at this point. Sarah, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Again, my name's Sarah Larios Mitchell. I'm the Star Vista CEO, and I use she, her pronouns. Thank you so much for having me. The overall objective of the World Mental Health Day is to raise awareness of mental health issues around the world and to mobilize efforts locally in terms of mental health awareness. As a community-based organization, I am truly honored to be here with all of you tonight so I can talk to you all about Star Vista and our work. Every year, as you said, Mr. Mayor, our Star Vista helps over 44,000 children, youth, adults, and families navigate life's challenges by empowering individuals, inspiring hope, and strengthening communities. One of our primary goals is to promote and achieve equity for people whose life circumstances have hindered them from realizing their full potential. And we do this by addressing mental health and by being the support that an individual or a family needs. And as you said, this is Star Vista's 55th year anniversary. I am so excited and so proud that our organization has been serving the community here locally for so many years. We started back in 1966 with just one program, our crisis hotline, and it started right in Burlingame, so not too far from San Mateo. And it was actually the third crisis hotline in California and one of the very first in the entire nation, which just shows how groundbreaking and innovative our organization is in meeting community needs. Today, we have about 30 different programs, and we partner very closely with cities and the county in meeting community needs. I'm very, very proud about that. So as I said, we empower individuals. As an example, each year we provide supportive counseling and drug education to over 1,000 youth and adults who are dealing with a substance use issue. And we've expanded our programs just recently. So we just opened the first women's only detox program in our county. We inspire hope. Every year, our crisis center provides 24/7 crisis support, suicide prevention counseling, and education to over 18,000 people in our county alone. And this year, our clinicians are beginning to work with our law enforcement partners right here in our county. And I am so proud that we're going to be partnering with San Mateo in launching this groundbreaking, innovative program. And we also strengthen communities. Our counselors work in about 40 different schools in all of San Mateo County. We serve about 3,500 students every year. And we're doing more to expand services to also serve families and their parents as well. So lastly, I know I just have another minute or so. I want to say that we do have our annual fundraiser. It's called Changing Lives. It'll be happening this Thursday. And we need the community support more than ever. We know within our organization, the demand for mental health services is growing. It's doubling. And we need the community support to be there with us. And so if you're interested in learning more, please see our website, www.star-vista.org. I hope you can join us. Thank you all again for your support. And we're so excited to be working with all of you with this new program.
Thank you. And Chief Barberini, did you want to say anything? I didn't know if you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, I just wanted to express, on behalf of the police department, to express our gratitude to Star Vista. While we're embarking on a new project with Star Vista, the truth of the matter is Star Vista has been an invaluable partner for law enforcement in dealing with those who are suffering and navigating through mental health challenges for a long, long time. I'm a little biased. I'm proud and humbled to serve on the board with Star Vista. And I see firsthand what they do, not only from a law enforcement perspective, but what they do every day. So I would reinforce or echo Sarah's invitation to the event on the 7th. It is a very worthwhile organization. I think that folks can learn a lot and really grasp not only the large need and gap that Star Vista fills, but also a way that they can get involved and help out. So thanks to Star Vista on behalf of the police department. We really appreciate everything you do for us.
Thank you again, Sarah, and we're as a city so proud to be working with your organization as well. And again, if you're watching this at home or you're attending, it's on Thursday, Changing Lives Fundraiser. Check it out. It's a great organization, great cause. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the next ceremonial item, which is the San Mateo Arboretum Society. Arboretum Society, I'm saying that wrong. And we have Carol Collison, President of San Mateo of Arboretum Society. How do you pronounce that word? I keep pronouncing that wrong.
Arboretum.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us to the City Council meeting this evening. I'm Carol Callison, President of the Arboretum Society, and with me here tonight is our Vice President, Kevin Wilkinson. Our purpose here tonight is to give you a little background and some history about our organization and what we do for the City Parks Department. In a 2017 article, the Daily Journal referred to the San Mateo Arboretum Society as a hidden gem in Central Park and the best kept secret in San Mateo. As a nonprofit, our mission is horticulture education, and our passion is connecting people and plants to enhance the community. Our informal mission is we are friends of Central Park. We have forged a great collaborative relationship over 46 years with the City of San Mateo Parks and Recreation Department and the surrounding community. We were founded in 1975 by garden enthusiast Marian Panaritas with the support of then Mayor John Condon. The Arboretum Society began by refurbishing the dilapidated pump house barn into a usable space and converting the surrounding grounds into a Victorian garden and nursery. In the 1990s, we added a front entry, conference room, and office with a Victorian-style facade in keeping with the Victorian garden. Over the years, we created the Rose Garden with its centerpiece gazebo, the Hummingbird Butterfly Garden, and paid for Victorian style street lamps along the south entrance to the park. Here's a look at the when we were adding on the facade to the old barn. And here we are today with the Victorian garden and the Rose Garden in full bloom. And to give you a perspective of where we are, we're next to the bronze dog that everybody loves. The Arboretum is adjacent to the Rose Garden. It's comprised of the coal pump house, the Victorian garden, plant nursery, and greenhouses. We have approximately 250 members and 40 volunteers. We designed, planted, and continue to maintain the Rose, Victorian, Hummingbird Butterfly, Sundial Garden, which is at 9th and Palm, and the Northgate Garden. Our plant sales in the nursery help fund our mission and support our park projects. We propagate perennials, shrubs, herbs, houseplants, orchids, and natives. The gardens and nursery are all maintained using only organic nutrients such as compost and mulch. We also recycle. It's not a new concept. We've been doing it for decades. Nearly all of the items for sale are basically from donated pots and plants that businesses and local residents give us. Our tribute brick sales in the Rose and Butterfly Gardens over the last 7 years help support our initiatives. It's how we raise the majority of funding for the Pump House project. And for 40 years, we operated the well-loved Hillsborough San Mateo Garden Tour. It was our main fundraising event. The recent droughts and pandemic have forced us to find other funding methods to sustain our operations and support the park. And as part of a community outreach program, the Arboretum hosts monthly education seminars and workshops in conjunction with plant clinics staffed by the University of Berkeley, California at Berkeley Master Gardeners. We also work with local schools, Girl and Boy Scout troops to promote interest in gardening. We have an intern program that gets high school and college student volunteers to work in our nursery. And our upgraded pump house and gardens now provide a great venue for events and off-site corporate meetings.
This is Kevin. I'd like to tell you about some of our recent projects. In the Rose Garden and the Hummingbird Butterfly Garden, we replaced the sprinklers with a much more efficient drip irrigation system that's really saving a lot of water. In the garden between the Ellipse and the Butterfly Hummingbird Garden, we've replanted part of that garden with California native plants that are drought tolerant. The Sundial Garden, the park entrance at 9th and Palm, was renovated with a donation from us. The park department renovated it. We replaced the sign that was old and faded and cracked, and removed the overgrown plants with drought tolerant attractive plants. And the pump house was finally renovated. The renovation was completed this year. It took about 7 years and about $100,000 of funds. And this past year, we've donated $17,000 to the City Parks Department. And today, we're going to donate another $8,000 for a total of $25,000. And here's a photo of the new entrance at 9th and Palm. You can see the sundial just behind the sign there. And next year, we have a few more projects we'd like to tackle. In the Rose Garden, we'd like to install 2 trellises with climbing roses and a kiosk to identify the roses in the garden. And inside Central Park, we see a need for signage. We often get people coming to the Arboretum looking for the Japanese tea garden or restrooms. So we think some signs throughout the park would help. And we've been working with the Parks Department to get that to happen. And a smartphone app would also be useful to identify interesting points to visitors in the park. We'd like to help with the renovation of the other entrance into Central Park on Laurel Avenue. That's the one that points you to the Japanese tea garden. So we'll do what we can to help fund that work. And the Parks Department also wants to add tree lighting in Central Park. So we'd like to help fund part of that effort.
Okay, so take advantage. The Arboretum is no longer a secret. Please feel free to come tour our property. We have volunteers here 7 days a week. And you're free to use the Arboretum for any city events. We've hosted retirement parties and meetings in the past, and if we're not booked, we'd be more than happy to host you. And buy our plants. They're locally propagated by us and already acclimated to the climate. And tonight we'll be putting in the mail a check for $8,000 to the City Parks Department. And thank you very much for letting us join you this evening.
Well, we want to thank you very much for that very generous donation. A lot of great things going on in Central Park. And you saw all those ways you can get involved. I want to encourage, again, those watching at home, those on this call, to support this organization and check out their plants. They got a lot of great plants, and you can learn a lot too by speaking with any one of their experts that are on hand. So thank you again. All right, so we are going to move on to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, can you please read the consent calendar?
With pleasure, Mayor. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 3, City Council meeting minutes approval. Item number 4, ordinance adoption adding pedestrian malls to the municipal code. Item number 5, City Council 2022 regular meeting calendar adoption. Item number 6, Poplar at Golf Course Trash Capture Project amendment. Item number 7, Borel Park Development Project Play Equipment Purchase contract. Item number 8, 4th and South Railroad Avenue parking lot exclusive negotiating agreement. Item number 9, classification updates for the Finance Department. And item number 10, Service Employees International Union Local 521 Maintenance Union Memorandum of Understanding Amendment.
Thank you. Okay, is there any member of the council who would like to pull any items off the consent calendar? Deputy Mayor Bonilla. Mute.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would like to pull item number 10 just to make a couple of comments on it.
Okay, item number 10 is pulled. All right. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on any item on the consent calendar? Now would be the time to raise your hand. Okay, I see a hand. If Madam Clerk, if you could unmute her so she can.
Yes, Lina Martinez, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. And I'm new to this process, so I'm not sure if this is the time to bring up an item for future consideration. I know it's not on the agenda today. Would it be okay to do that now?
Now would not be ideal. After this, we're going to have a public comment session for anything that's not on the agenda. So it will happen in about 5 minutes, probably. I'll let you know.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
I move approval of the consent agenda without item number 10.
Second.
Great. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to item number 10 now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just pulled this so I can make some comments. Item 10 is reflecting the memorandum of understanding, which represents an agreement that was reached between the city of San Mateo and our employees who work in the maintenance unit who are members of SEIU Local 521. I just want to comment that this is a very difficult time for the city to be able, you saw us struggling with how to raise revenue to meet all of our needs. This is a perfect example. The people that work for us need raises from time to time because the cost of living has gone up significantly, especially during COVID. And this represents an agreement that was reached through negotiations. No legs were broken. People walked away from it as a compromise, not getting everything they wanted or not having everything be exactly the way they would like to have it, but it represents progress. It does something for the working people over a period of a couple of years. Slower, I think, than the working people would have preferred, but it's what the city can do at this time. And so I applaud the process, and I want to thank for the people who are on this meeting tonight for listening to and witnessing the struggles that the city is going through right now, trying to raise the revenue to meet all of our needs. So thank you very much for being on here tonight. You're participating in the civic process, and I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bonilla. Is there any other members of council who would like to comment on this item? Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this item? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please call roll?
Yes. Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Yes.
Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go on to public comment. And this is the time where the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda, they may address the council at this time. Keep in mind that state law prohibits council from taking action on any matter that's not on the agenda, but your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later in the agenda. And we have Lana Martinez, who I believe is the proprietor of Cuban Kitchen on El Camino, if I'm correct. I might be wrong.
That is correct.
Okay.
Hi, Eric. It is now. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
We recently received a lawsuit regarding an ADA issue. It is the second one in about 2 years. And I know that I speak for other businesses in the area who are facing similar issues. We want to be compliant, and we're wondering if there could be some sort of inspection that the city provides, just like we have inspections for health departments, fire suppression, etc., that could be incorporated so that we are in compliance and don't have to deal with unexpected lawsuits and frequent ones at that.
We're unable to comment or answer your questions at this time, but
That's right.
But you can continue, and we can address your comment to the appropriate staff member after.
Okay. And if the first lawsuit that we faced in 2018 was handled by the landlord as a group settlement, the landlord, I believe, had hired a professional inspector to make sure that we were ADA compliant. But I am now concerned that they limited their inspection to the parking space. And recently, I guess due to COVID, a lawyer submitted another lawsuit regarding not having a handicap or ADA appropriate table outside or seating outside, even though we do have that inside, and even though we have been open inside and outside dining. So again, we just want to be compliant, and we're seeking help from the city to perhaps provide inspections that help us to be compliant with the ADA. Thank you for your consideration. I'll hang up now.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jordan Grimes.
Good evening, Council, Honorable Mayor.
I just wanted to take a very quick moment tonight to acknowledge the passing of a really wonderful and important person to many San Mateans, and that's Bill Dascarolis, better known to Aragon students as Dasco. Between his years as a PE teacher and a track and cross-country coach, Dasco spent 55 years teaching, coaching, and inspiring students and athletes, myself among them. He was tough but supportive, encouraging, and always quick at a joke. He really made you want to work harder, run faster, and just be better. He was a great coach and an even better man, and he'll be missed by many of us. I just wanted to, bring that up tonight and leave the public with that. So thanks so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth Kyle.
I pretty much want to touch on the project here on Humboldt Street. That's pretty much my concern.
Okay, there's going to be a time for you to comment on that one while we're discussing it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Did staff want to follow up on any one of those comments, especially the ADA compliant one? I don't know if there's anything we can do or say, but.
I think Jennifer Chin is on, and she's been working with the chamber to discuss this issue, and she might be able to provide an update.
Is now an appropriate time to do that, or is that? I'm not clear what exactly, since it was brought up in public comment.
I'll just say it's fine for staff or the council to briefly respond and leave it at that.
Okay. Jennifer Chen, are you on? Never know when your number is going to get called.
I don't see her in the attendees list or panelists list.
Okay, I think that she did message me to let me know that she's working on a meeting with the chamber to review the ADA compliance, and they're likely going to be having a meeting on this in November. And so this is on the radar, and they're trying to see how it could be best addressed.
I did just find her and promote her.
Oh.
Sorry, yes, that is what I had texted Drew. I did not expect to speak tonight. So we are working with the chamber to do a regional ADA compliance. We're aware of the compliance issue, and we'll be forming a webinar to help businesses understand their ADA requirement. I know that we have been providing contacts through the building department to talk for the businesses to work with. There's a team out of San Mateo College that does the ADA review. I'll be happy to work with the restaurant that called Cuban Kitchen and follow up with that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, we had a hand raise right when we stopped the public comment. I don't know if you want to entertain that.
If I dismissed it, then yes, I definitely want to. I didn't see it.
Okay, calling on Lila. Lila, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, and I did not see Joe have his hand up before. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm going to keep public comment closed. Well, yeah, I think that before I close public comment, you have to raise your hand. All right, so we're going to close public comment, and we're going to move on to the next item, which is old business, item number 11, which is the COVID-19 update, and we have our city manager, Drew Corbett, here to present.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Rodriguez. I'm just having a little technical difficulty right now sharing my screen. So give me a second. So if it's okay, I'll give a, oh, here we go. Are you able to see that?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see if we can get it onto slideshow. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So the item before you is a brief COVID-19 update. I want to start with operationally. City Hall. So originally in June, when things were opening up, we had put forth a plan where we would have employees returning to a more set schedule starting on September the 1st. With the indoor mask mandate that came into place in August, we pushed that initially to October 1st. With things not really changing since then, we've extended it again to November 1st. I do want to point out that City Hall is open. Counter operations are still available. We are able to serve the public, whoever comes into City Hall. It's just we have fewer people in the back office on a regular schedule at this point, and we'll continue to monitor and evaluate as we go forward. For recreation, we've been able to resume indoor programming and private permits for the San Mateo High Gym. And we've got indoor programs expanded to include adult painting, martial arts, ceramics, and bingo at the Senior Center. For our library, for both the main library and the branches, we're at about 3/4 of our capacity pre-COVID, so about 75% of weekly hours at all facilities. We do believe we're continuing to meet the service demand with the reduced hours. And one of the problems with the consideration of expanding hours has been hiring continues to be a real challenge. We've got a very small applicant pool for the workers that we need, predominantly at the branches. We do have active recruitments for the staff needed to add back in branch hours, but recruiting continues to be a challenge. But to the extent we're able to bring people on, we will start to look into expanding those hours as well. We are planning on November 1st to add 6 hours per week at the main library. That would put the main library open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, starting November 1st. And that would get the main library back to 87% of pre-COVID operation levels. And then just late last week, the state COVID-19 supplemental paid sick leave benefits expired. And that was 80 hours that was available to employees for things like vaccinations, testing, quarantine, and isolation. So over the 9 months that those leave benefits were available, we had 186 employees use the benefits, and they used them for an average of 24 hours for each leave. And what we're planning on doing is to allow employees to continue to utilize unused sick hours through the end of this calendar year. With respect to council confirmation, I'd like to get confirmation for the actions I've taken in response to the emergency proclamation, which are the modifications to City Hall, library, and recreation operations, as well as the utilization of special COVID-19 leave through the end of the calendar year. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Drew. Do we have any questions from council members?
I'd like to make a motion to
let's get public comment first.
Okay.
Let's make sure. I'd like to open up public comment. If you're a member of the public that would like to chime in on this, you can raise your hand right now. All right, I'm going to close public comment. There you go, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to give the city manager confirmation on continuation of his emergency powers. Thanks.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you. All right, moving right along to item number 12, which is new business. And this is consideration of contribution to the San Mateo Foster City Education Foundation Gala and auction. And we have our city manager again to present on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Rodriguez. And this will be a very brief presentation. Just a little bit of background. So the San Mateo Foster City Education Foundation Gala and Auction, which this year's theme is Moonlight Masquerade, is coming up in a couple weeks on October the 22nd. Last year, the council approved a $7,260 contribution to the gala and also provided a night of bowling with the city council at Bel Mateo Bowl as an auction item. And should council opt to provide a contribution and or an item for the auction, we do have a resolution prepared tonight to appropriate the contribution amount. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions about this from the council members? Okay, I'm going to open up public comment. If anybody from the public wants to comment on this item. Not seeing any. Can you confirm that, City Clerk?
We do have one hand raised now.
Great. Please go ahead.
Elizabeth Kyle, please unmute.
Can I just bring up something in regard to the school district itself, as far as the elementary school district? I mean, does it have to be relating to this matter that you guys have brought up, or can I just bring up something regarding the...
It's supposed to be related to this matter.
Okay.
You could probably use some creativity to get it related, but it's supposed to be related to this matter.
Well, my concern was in regard to the building of the new elementary school in Foster City.
Yeah, I think I would, you probably want to talk with the school board on that one. This is not,
okay, all right.
We're just considering making a donation to a foundation this evening. Okay, are there any other public comments?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to council for comments.
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yes. I had a chance, well, I did attend two of the school openings recently that the school district opened, one in Foster City, one in San Mateo, which was the new gym at the Bayside Academy. Very nice facility. Now I had a chance to speak with some people and look some information up, and I saw that last year the city of Foster City contributed $20,000. Not that we have to compete with that, but I think that it's a great foundation. They do a lot of good stuff for the school district, and it's a really good cause. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we might want to consider something like that. Thank you. $10,000 would be fine with me.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. I wanted to maybe contextualize the gift a little bit, just in light of the fact that I think we spent almost $200,000 on supporting the learning hubs, the distance learning hubs in our own parks and recreation programs. So our contributions to the school district are quite significant, and so I'm happy keeping it at its current level. I hope for the benefit of the viewers tonight, you have a kind of a good window into the spectrum of decision points that come to council. We are facing a budget crisis. We are asking our city employees to take concessions over multiple years. And we are at the same time coming out of our own pockets to support important strategic partners like our school district. And so I'm very pleased to see us consider this donation again in this time, and all the many ways that we've supported the district through our own programming, and I strongly support it.
I concur with Councilmember Lee's comments in that this amount seems to be appropriate. We are running a deficit each year. I don't believe that we're in the position to give more, although of course we'd like to. Another issue we need to talk, or another part of it, is if we wanted to donate an experience or something like that. I will remind everyone that we're currently in debt one experience that we need to fulfill as soon as health conditions allow us. But what do we think about that? And what? The same thing? Bowling with the council? We're going to be getting good at bowling. All right. So does anybody else have any other questions or any other comments on this? And staff, did we give you enough information?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to add that I'm fine with the contribution that we made before. And also regarding the bowling, I think that is a great thing. I just can't do it because I have carpenter shoulder. Okay, so thanks.
You can come and have drinks with us or something.
We need cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Well, I can do that. Okay.
You're not off the hook.
Right. So we're good, Drew?
So I think there's a resolution to appropriate then the $7,260. So I think we need a motion for that.
Great. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Well, second.
Oh.
Okay, Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
And Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 13, which is the 2020-21 Community Development Block Grant Project Agreement. And we have Sue Ellen, Principal Transportation Planner, here to present with us. Welcome, Sue Ellen.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Rodriguez. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Okay. Mayor Rodriguez, City Council members, Sue Ellen Atkinson, the Principal Transportation Planner with the Public Works Department. I'm here tonight for the 2020-21 Community Development Block Grant Project Agreement. Just for an overview of what I'll be presenting this evening, we'll be going through the project description, the design and parking analysis that fed into the project, our community outreach to date, the project bidding, and staff recommendation. So first, just a little bit of background on this project. The project is funded through Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG grant funding. The city has received this type of funding for a number of years now. Historically, these grant funds have been utilized primarily for paving projects. And in the last several years, staff has made an effort to spend these grant funds on bike and pedestrian projects in the applicable neighborhoods. This year, staff is proposing 2 projects, the first of which is on Humboldt Street between Peninsula Avenue and 5th Avenue. The bike implementation for this project that's proposed is a Class 2 bike lane, and it's the number 2 high priority project in our 2020 Bicycle Master Plan. And second, we have a project on Poplar, a small bit of Delaware, and Indian Avenue. That's our number 4 high priority project, and goes from generally San Mateo Drive connecting into the proposed project at Humboldt with connectivity to our recently completed San Mateo Drive project. This is a combination of Class 2 bike lanes and bicycle boulevard. The project is more extensive than bike improvements alone. The scope includes pavement rehabilitation, curb ramps to bring them up to ADA compliance, traffic signal video detection, and the aforementioned bike improvements. This project is giving us opportunity to do this pavement maintenance at the same time that we're doing the bike improvements, which we have been trying to coordinate. And the project includes 6 segments where the streets, the PCI of the streets, or pavement condition index, is failed. So bit on project background, just familiarizing you with the types of bike facilities. The first is the Class 2 bike lane, which is a majority of the project. That's a striped bicycle lane. You can see a photo here of that San Mateo Drive project. It includes intersection treatments and conflict striping. The Class 2 bike lane is on street. That's why the discussion of right-of-way comes up when we're talking about Class 2 bike lanes. Conversely, a bike boulevard is a shared facility. This is a photo of our newly completed 28th Avenue Bike Boulevard. That's shared lane markings, signage, and potentially traffic calming measures. On this project, we did curb extensions, speed cushions, and a raised crosswalk. So going into the design and parking analysis for the proposed project. These projects, as I mentioned before, are two of our highest prioritized projects in the adopted 2020 Bicycle Master Plan. The prioritization was initially the highest weighted portion of the prioritization is connectivity to key community destinations, including schools, including parks, including transit, and our downtown. In this neighborhood, we're hearing about increased ridership to San Mateo High School, so we're pleased that these projects provide additional connectivity to the high school. Safety was the second highest ranked portion of the prioritization exercise. And here we're looking at a graphic of bicycle collisions in this neighborhood between 2017 to present. Poplar and Humboldt historically have high collision rates for bicyclists. While we are looking at historical collisions here, these projects give us the opportunity to provide safe spaces on the street for bicyclists to try to avoid future collisions. So here in orange, you can see our proposed facilities on Humboldt and then on Poplar and Indian. The solid lines are our Class 2 bike lanes and the dotted lines are the bike boulevard. And you can also see our completed San Mateo Drive project and the collision history on that roadway. North Central neighborhood scores near the 90th percentile for active commuting. And we've seen a number of bicyclists on the roadway. We've heard from residents that there are high volumes of bicyclists. So what this project is aiming to do is to give a safe place on the roadway for those users. As part of the project design, we had to evaluate how to fit these facilities on the roadway. Our roadway width in this area is about 40 feet, and that's finite. We can't make it wider. We can't add additional right-of-way to make it feasible to do more. So in looking at the design, what became necessary was to do partial parking removal, approximately 200 spaces, primarily on the west side of Humboldt Street and the south side of Poplar Avenue. And when you're looking at these roadways from a complete streets perspective, we're trying to fit in space for a number of different users. We're trying to make space for vehicles, for motorists, for pedestrians, for bicyclists. We're able to do all of that, but there is a trade-off on this project of a reduction in on-street vehicle storage in order to accommodate all of those users. In looking at that parking reduction, we did do a parking data collection in the neighborhood. We looked at the project corridors plus about 200 feet on all of the side streets that connect to the corridors. That's about 1 block, just shy of 1 block. What that parking analysis consisted of was counting vehicles that are on street, so the physical vehicles that are parked, every hour between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We worked with a third-party data collection firm that has experience in this area and has assisted other jurisdictions who are implementing similar projects with similar parking trade-offs. The scope was developed in partnership with that firm because they had experience in this area. What that data collection effort found is that the parking is impacted, as we've heard from residents. However, our assessment did find sufficient capacity in the parking that will be remaining after the project and on those side street segments, but it will be nearly fully parked. Staff recognizes the impacts of this parking removal. What we're trying to do as a result of this project is to balance the needs of those various users, but the reduction in on-street parking is a trade-off in doing so. And this is not an aspect of the design that we've taken lightly. While these roadways are in the 2020 adopted bicycle master plan and they're in our proposed network, we did look at what would happen if we were to implement in an alternate location. We looked at other streets within the neighborhood, and they would require a similar amount of parking removal, if not more. They're about the same width. Several roadways, in fact, would require removal on both sides of the roadway. Humboldt Street was selected because of that connectivity that I spoke to earlier. It provides connectivity east of 101 that we've heard is through our bike master plan outreach is a major barrier. So it can provides connectivity east of the freeway that other north-south roadways in the neighborhood don't provide. And in our analysis of other locations within the neighborhood, there is no north-south option that allows to maintain vehicle travel lanes, bike lanes, and for all parking to remain for the full corridor. We looked at alternate designs as well. If a bike lane were not to be implemented, what may be feasible. In terms of Humboldt, there's no alternate design option to provide for a Class 2 bike lane on Humboldt without that parking removal. The speeds and the volumes on Humboldt are too high to implement a bike boulevard, which is that shared on-street facility. And while we could do a bike boulevard on other roadways, it wouldn't meet the goal of the bike master plan. So just as parking reduction is a trade-off in this design, if we were to design a bike boulevard, safety for bicyclists in the neighborhood would be a trade-off. So I'm going to walk you through the outreach that we've done to date. First, we held a virtual community meeting at the end of May. We advertised that through mailers that are shown on the screen and were sent out to all of the households shown on the map, also on the screen. We advertised through Nextdoor, through the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition local team, and we shared the information with the Home Association of North Central San Mateo. That evening, we had approximately 20 attendees. We recorded that meeting and posted it to our project website. And to date, we've had about 116 views of that recorded presentation. We also wanted to get information out to where people were. People aren't always able to attend a community meeting, so we wanted to put some information out on the street where they are. So we installed street level signage, which you can see right here, in July 2021. And we installed that at 100 locations along the project corridor. Since those were installed, we've had 634 unique visitors to our website, which is about 87% of our total visits. Following installation of the signage, we did begin to receive feedback from residents. To date, about 14 residents so far who expressed concerns regarding the parking removal as part of this project. As I mentioned, we launched a project webpage in May 2021. In total, about 940 total website visitors. We also mailed notice of the meeting tonight to 3,000 households in September, which is a wider catchment area than we sent mailers to regarding the community meeting. That was feedback that we had received from the public that we hadn't mailed to enough households, and was a way that we were trying to improve on our outreach. Since that mailer, we've had over 200 unique visitors to the website. Staff presented to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission in September 2021 on this project. The commission supported project implementation, but did provide feedback to staff regarding the adequacy of the parking data effort, the potential for programs to help alleviate that parking reduction, and on the community outreach and engagement performed. And we have received that feedback and incorporated that in the staff recommendation tonight. So moving forward into project bidding, the project was open for bid in July 2021, and bids were due August 18th, 2021. We received 4 bids in total. The first 2 bidders, the first and second lowest bidder, were found to be unresponsive. And McGuire and Hester was determined to be the lowest responsible bidder. The first 2 bidders omitted information in their bid packages, and that is why they were found to be unresponsive. So staff recommendation has a few parts. The first is the final staff recommendation is recommendation to award the full contract before you this evening. That gives us the opportunity to begin the construction and pavement work that is time sensitive. We're only able to perform pavement work in good weather. We're in October right now, and we're coming up quickly on the rainy season. That will allow us to do work that will enable us to expend a portion of the grant funding. We have a grant expenditure deadline by which we have to draw down a certain amount of the grant in order to remain in keeping with the grant terms. If we do not meet that expenditure date, we are at risk of losing the funding and at risk for funding in the future. So the staff recommendation is to award the contract this evening to allow that construction and pavement work to begin so that we can meet those grant expenditure deadlines. However, the natural schedule of this project is such that that allows us additional time to address comments from the public and feedback from the commission. So in that intervening time, while the construction and pavement work is ongoing, staff is recommending that we perform additional parking data analysis, including peak overnight counts, to confirm the parking analysis that we did previously. We're proposing to do additional community engagement with community-based organizations, and also to look at options to provide additional parking supply in order to mitigate the parking removal as a result of the project. Staff intends to bring a follow-up to commission and the city council in winter 2022 regarding the findings of that additional work. And then the schedule for the project has the bicycle improvements occurring in spring to summer 2022. So the construction sequencing of this project has the pavement work at the beginning to provide a smooth surface for those bike improvements, and naturally the bike improvements fall toward the end of the schedule, which gives us that opportunity for the additional work that we're proposing. So in full, the staff recommendation is to award an agreement to McGuire and Hester for the 2020 to 21 Community Development Block Grant Program project in the amount of $1,668,271, establish a contingency reserve in the amount of $170,000, and authorize the Public Works Director to execute the agreement in substantially the form presented and issue change orders as allowed by the contract documents and within the amount of the contingency reserve. That concludes the staff presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. I'll bring it back to council for questions. Who would like to kick things off? Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Suan. I just wanted to make sure that the future analysis, as you said, will span a 24-hour period. Is that accurate? Is that we'll be validating the 12-hour window that was already studied during the weekday and the weekend, but also extending it overnight, so two 24-hour periods, one on the weekday and one on the weekend?
We haven't finalized the scope for the additional parking analysis yet. We would seek to confirm the analysis during the daytime. The industry standard is not 24-hour counts per se. It's during that daytime period, and then you can do peak overnight counts. So, for example, from midnight to 2 to capture that peak overnight parking, rather than doing full overnight counts. That's at the recommendation of our data collection firm, but we have not finalized that scope.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have is about coming to the assessment about the neighborhood being fully parked. What was the scope of that determination? Like, was it within a block radius or in sort of adjacent to the project itself or the neighborhood entirely? It raises some flags for me. I don't want us to ever commit to a project that will net out all of our parking spots. And so, it strikes me as, potentially a policy question in terms of like what would trigger us to then revisit our own analysis and consider some parking support or alleviation programs, mitigation programs.
We looked at the project by segment, so Poplar Avenue, Delaware, where there's a small amount, North Humboldt and the southern portion of Humboldt. So it wasn't by block, it wasn't the full project, it was in between, essentially.
Okay. And then I think the other question, which I think that you very well addressed in your presentation, is why North Central was selected. And it would be helpful, I think, for the public to, especially some of our North Central neighbors, to talk more about the Failed Streets initiative and how prioritizing North Central blocks, which has like a very high concentration of failed streets, was something that was factored in.
Sure, I can start to address that. If I miss anything, Azalea Mitch, our Public Works Director, is here. She can speak a little more on the Failed Streets initiative. community development block grant funding is eligible to be expended on projects in certain neighborhoods. North Central is one of those neighborhoods. In looking to accomplish bike and pedestrian projects with those funds, in addition to pavement projects, we look toward the prioritization in the bike master plan and the ability to implement projects that were high priority for the city that were not funded through other means. And so these projects being the number 2 and number 4 projects in our prioritization, were naturally at the top for projects that we would like to accomplish in the near future. Again, that prioritization is based on connectivity, safety, and comfort. We did a lot of data analysis and a lot of community engagement that led into the selection of the projects and the goals for the plan by which they were prioritized. And in doing these projects, we are also able to implement pavement maintenance work that had not yet been scheduled as well, and bring those failed streets up to a better condition prior to doing the bike improvements.
Thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any other questions from council? All right, then I'm going to open up to public comment. So I'm anticipating quite a bit of speakers on this, so please raise your hand now if you intend to talk. I also just want to remind everyone that we did get plenty of emails on this topic, and I can assure you that we read every single one that was sent, before this evening. And I see a lot of people raising their hands who also sent us emails. So please make sure that you're not just repeating what you said in your email, because we did read it and we got a lot of speakers. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
22.
22.
23.
23 and probably more. I'm thinking a minute and a half each. What does my fellow council members think about that?
I think that's good. Do you think it's going to end up being a lot more than that? Should we ask people to raise their hands now and then just go to people who raise their hands?
Well, I've asked everybody to raise their hands. How many? We have a couple more now. Yeah, they're just coming. I don't know. What do you want to do? A minute? Let's hear other opinions.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a minute and a half timer. I only have a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute. But I could do it on my phone.
All right, let's do, I'm not hearing anything.
No, I say a minute is not enough. I'm sorry. People have a lot to say about this, and it just doesn't really sound right to me ever. So I would recommend 2 minutes.
Anybody else? Anybody else want to weigh in? I'm for a minute and a half, and the clerk could put a minute up there and then let us know when it's 30 seconds is up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Emma, our Councilmember Lee.
I would err on the side of just allowing people to speak for 2 minutes as well, but I understand that a lot of the same folks.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll do 2 minutes, but you're going to be cut off at 2 minutes. We got to move fast. We got a lot of people. It's a very important topic. 2 minutes. So please respect everybody here, especially your fellow speakers, and keep it to 2 minutes. And City Clerk, I would appreciate being very strict with the time.
And you don't have to use the whole 2 minutes.
And you don't have to use the whole 2 minutes. All right, let's go.
Okay, first speaker is Bri Myers.
Thank you all. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Bri, and I just wanted to say that choosing not to implement so I'm calling to support the bike lanes, because choosing not to implement the bike lanes on the streets that the proposed streets, where we just saw that 7 individuals were hit by cars in less than 4 years, is to accept that pedestrian safety is less important than neighborhood parking, that these individuals' lives are worth less than a car, that the children's safety is valued less than a car, that having a parking space to a few is more important than improving the lives of over 2,000 students and residents in the community that commute to these schools daily. This may sound dramatic, But when it's your loved one that gets hit by a car and it changes their lives possibly forever, it's an easy decision to choose pedestrian safety over convenience. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ryan.
My name is Ryan Marcucci. Thank you, Mayor Rodriguez and other city council members. I am a homeowner within Emery's district or area. And when I first heard about this, admittedly, I did not attend the city council meeting. I figured it'd probably have to go through some more bureaucracy before it even got to a decision. But what I'm most concerned about is 4 or 5 years ago, there was this huge push to make North Central high density housing. And I can appreciate people's ability to move around and how that needs to happen. And Sue's got a tough job, exactly how do we make that happen? But, we've got high density housing over here. We're pushing to have more permits be given to people within our district to allow more people. And so all those people that are currently parking on Humboldt are now going to flood into the neighborhood and of neighborhoods that are being encouraged to add more housing. So I will take my comments off the air. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jennifer Plantenberg.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Council members, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I come on behalf as a citizen of North Central, as well as a pastor at a church on Humboldt, Community Baptist Church, which also serves as the bus stop for the 5 or 6 schools who get picked up as the children in this neighborhood get, taken to various schools. And I just want to share that I appreciate the concern to have a safe bike lane. I'm a children's pastor. I care very much for the safety of the children and the safety even of the children who get their the bus at the bus stop at our church. And so I do care very much, and I appreciate the concern for the environment with promoting bike lanes. But I have a severe concern for the parking here in this particular neighborhood because of the working poor who make up the majority of this neighborhood, where a lot of the people who work here are landscapers or house cleaners and need their vehicles for their careers, for their jobs. They cannot, they need it for their work, and so they need to find a place to park, and it can be really challenging. We often, as a family with 2 cars in this tiny neighborhood, struggle to find parking. And so I just have concern for the people that it will benefit a lot of people to have a bike lane, but it will also be a detriment to the working poor, specifically in San Mateo, since this is like one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. It's a wonderful neighborhood. We love it here and we love the city, but just want to continue to consider that. So thank you so much. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth Cayo.
Hello. Well, I've been a resident in the North Central for the past 50 years. So I have a great concern that I do not agree with the findings or whatever analysis that this group have found. I do not agree with it. I find it faulty, and I'm looking back that this area here, North Central, 50 years ago, or 50, 60 years ago, this is the same area that people were prohibited from, of color people were prohibited from having properties, owning properties past Fifth Avenue and past Peninsula. And here we are again, 50 years later. And here we are, we're coming back with parking, that you guys want to install parking for what? Bike lanes for people that these people here do not need for bikes. They need parking. And parking is the necessary because this is the area of the working class. I do not agree with this faulty finding. And we were not given proper acknowledgement. These are people that don't go online. We do things by verbal. If you had come to the city, to the area here and talked to the people here, we know what's going on. We have no idea until you start posting these things in front of our yard. I totally object. And we have signatures. We're gathering signatures objecting to this idea that you guys want to do a bike lane. Why not go to Amplet? Why not put up a speed bump where there's a lot of children? And instead you have speed bump on 9th Avenue where there's hardly any whatever. Traffic. This is a lot of traffic. We need speed bumps, not bike lanes.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ryan Motashemi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi there. I'm sorry. I'm in a nursing facility for my grandmother right now. So there is, I was in the room, but just stepped out to make comment. I am a member of San Mateo's local bicycle advocacy team, and I have been working on organizing for safer bicycle facilities in our region for the past year in San Mateo, because just this past year on Humboldt Street, a 68-year-old man was seriously injured on his bicycle at Tilton and Humboldt Street, square in the center of this project area. And I would just like to thank staff for prioritizing projects in areas that do have the highest collisions. Someone died last week on Humboldt Street. Someone died last week in a vehicle accident, crash on Humboldt Street. These are things that we can prevent, that we can help with traffic calming, with bicycle lanes that improve sight distances, by helping the working poor who are disproportionately likely to ride bicycles or use active transportation, which is, I would say, a very large reason why this neighborhood scores in the 90th percentile of active transportation mode share. So I would just like you to, when conducting outreach for this project, which I'm very glad to hear that staff has a plan to do further outreach, further analysis as part of their recommendations, because there is a parking problem, to also reach out to the cyclists who do use Humboldt, who do use Poplar. I've ridden there multiple times with my cousin and got punished past by vehicles who come by me with less than 3 feet and make me scared for my life. And I'm just worried that if we continue delaying these projects, that we might never get to Vision Zero traffic deaths.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Olivette.
Go ahead, Olivette. Maybe come back to her.
Yes, we can come back. The next speaker is telephone line ending in 509.
Hi, can you hear?
Oh. Yes, we can.
Hi. Okay, great. So yeah, my name's Ben Bendig. I'm a North Central resident. I think, anyone who lives here can tell you the parking is very scarce. And then as it gets scarcer, I'm mostly concerned about downstream safety consequences of actually less parking in other areas. So, car break-ins are common. There's a concern, at least me and my family, of, the farther you park away, the less likely you'll be able to monitor what's happening to your vehicle. This would also be an issue if, there's a night parking where if there's not proper security. And yeah, so, and then just general traffic. The longer people take to find parking as it gets scarce means there'll be more traffic in the neighborhoods, and we'll just concerned that safety is obviously, we need to balance safety of keep in mind all the consequences of safety. So, anyways, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, let's try Olivette again. Olivet, you can provide your comments now.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? So, anyway, 200 parking spaces for working families is really happening. The people who live in these neighborhoods are working families. Families with, in my household, we have 4 cars. 2 adults go on a job, the mother goes on a job, the father goes on a job, with 2 kids. Other working families, I'm sorry, I didn't get caught up. I've been sick for a month with shingles. The mailer that you sent out, most of the people didn't even see the mailers, not either of the mailers. I spent $60 to print up flyers and I got shingles from them. I didn't get a chance to take most of them out. And all the homes that I've been to, they were totally unaware this was even happening. A lot of the families that live in this area are Spanish speaking. And the notices that you put on the poles, some of them were put on the poles. My neighbors put on the poles where there was a tree there and they didn't see it. Anyway, my neighbors are unaware, and it would be a travesty to displace that many parking spaces. My girlfriend takes an Uber to my house because she has to park 2 blocks away. I can't have a dinner party before because my guests have no place to park. The side streets, if you come on the side streets,
Thank you for your comments. And the next speaker is Kathleen Nelson.
Good job.
Kathleen?
I still see her as muted.
Kathleen, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I appreciate you letting me speak for my almost 2 minutes now. I'm the music director of St. Matthew Catholic Church, and I've been living in North Central for most of my life. I grew up around here, and I've also grown up with the traffic situation and the unsafety of the neighborhood. And yes, we have had a lot of crashes over the years, and it's of concern because there are schools right around the corner from where I live on Humboldt Street. Unfortunately, though, I'm not really sure that this project as is might be the best solution because of the speed problem. We did have instituted 4-way stops at different locations, which has reduced the speed considerably. And I would suggest maybe exploring that at other streets and perhaps instituting some strategically placed speed bumps, and then perhaps do a bike lane that way where people would be encouraged to slow down and penalized if they speed. You know, if you lose the lower tranny of your car, you're definitely not going to speed if you have all these speed bumps around, which has helped parts of Burlingame. And also because there are multiple families living in some of these houses, as you know, rent is very expensive, and there are a lot of working class people who live in my neighborhood. It would be also very considerate as well of them, because most of them do a lot of menial work and clerical work and working, gardening, different things that require equipment to be hauled around by big cars and trucks and stuff. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I will take my comments off now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elena A. Elena? You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Maybe come back to Elena.
Okay. Next speaker is John.
Oh,
We can hear you.
okay, good. I
echo the comments of a number of the people that have spoken already, so I won't address that. I do want to address the safety issue, though. This is a street. Humboldt Street serves 3 different freeway accesses, and it's an artery for freeway access. The problem is the average speed on that street is about 50 miles an hour, or maybe 45, but not less. We don't have enough police presence. There's no enforcement going on unless there's a wreck, and then it's too late. And there, as mentioned, there need to be more speed bumps, more four-way stop signs. My fear on this is if you go to all the expense of putting these things in, and you got these nice bike lanes and no parking for anybody that really needs it, and the kill count starts going up, because unless you do all this stuff and have enforcement of the speed limit, you're going to start having bicyclists getting killed too. So I don't know, you got to think about what kind of a kill ratio is within your bailiwick purview to say, oh, it's okay if we only kill 5 or 6 a year. But that's basically all I really wanted to say, because everybody else has said what I was going to say probably better than I did. So I thank you for the opportunity, but do think about the safety factor.
Thank you, John. Next speaker, let's try Elena A. again. You are unmuted. Go ahead, Elena. We're still not hearing you, so I will move on to the next person. Okay, next speaker is Cassandra.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to take a minute to thank the mayor and fellow city council members for allowing me to speak. My name's Jose, and I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, Cassandra, and myself. We live on Indian Avenue, which is affected by the proposed project that you have in mind. I feel like there's not enough information and consideration. There's a lot of residents that are unaware of the project, being that they are either at work or just not in the loop of what's going on. You could knock on doors, you could walk down the street, and I can guarantee that at least 75% of the residents don't know what's going on. I get that you guys have posted signs and have sent literature, but a lot of the people that live on Humboldt and on the affected streets nearby don't speak English, and that's a big concern. I've lived in a neighborhood for 34 years, which is basically my entire life. And I feel that this project lacks a lot of information. I have emailed the traffic sergeant for San Mateo to conduct traffic enforcement in the neighborhood, and I have not seen any traffic enforcement in the neighborhood. I have 2 children, and like other residents have said, a lot of the people that drive down the street speed, and that's a big concern. You have no stop signs. You have nothing going on from Poplar to Monte Diablo, which is a big gap. The only stop sign that you have is from Monte Diablo to Tilton, which is a small street. And from then on, it's a straight shot all the way down to basically 2nd Avenue. So I feel like being a grant, it could be held back and you guys could conduct further research, talk to more residents, kind of put a stamp on it and maybe get more information to kind of provide that.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Leah Austin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. I just want to say thank you for the pause on doing more analysis on this project. We are on Poplar and are directly impacted by the parking removal. I have many concerns: the lack of communication from the city, the lack of communication in Spanish. We actually drafted flyers in Spanish and English to let people know. None of our neighbors knew about it until they were told by word of mouth. And there were less than 20 people in that first meeting, and there was no mention of removal on parking, of Poplar parking in that initial meeting in May. So the communication from the city has been very, very poor. People speed on Poplar. I'll echo the same concerns. The speeds on Poplar are ridiculous. And if parking is removed, we are going to have to cross Poplar to park. And I have 2 young kids, and I'm terrified. There are no plans for any crosswalks, no measures of pedestrian safety within this plan. It's particularly on Poplar Avenue. And I echo a lot of the other concerns about high density neighborhood. A lot of the plots are zoned RM. There could be more housing here, but parking has been a problem and will be much worse if this project goes through and the parking is removed. I think that covers it. Thank you for letting me speak, and thank you for the pause and the opportunity for more input from the community.
Thank you, Leah. The next speaker is David Hunt.
Hi, I'm speaking in support of the bike lane as planned. My family and I live in Hayward Park, and one of the things we love doing on weekends is going to what my kids call the Dragon Park, but you might know as Magic Mountain. Getting north-south from where we are to the 101 crossing Lake Red Bridge is really unsafe right now. And the addition of this infrastructure to the San Mateo bike network would be very welcome and make us feel much safer getting around the city. So I really just want a safer route for my kids to get to the park that they love. And I guess I'll add with the time I have left that people drive at the speed they feel comfortable driving. And I think we should pursue traffic calming as part of this project if it's in the budget. It could be amazing. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Caroline.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for listening to hearing me out, but make this as fast as I can. The first impression I got, because I did hear about this earlier, bike lanes. I've been a cyclist for many years. I've been commuting to my job since 1985 on a bike. A bike lane is next to a parking lane. So I've ridden many of them in Burlingame and San Mateo, and it's what I'm used to. So I did not know they were going to take parking away. So this is the first I heard of the parking being removed. And as far as their parking analysis till 7 p.m., if I don't have my car parked in a spot on my street by 4 o'clock, it's going to be parked across my driveway, like many of my neighbors. At night, they only did their analysis till 7 p.m. Overnight is when people are home. They're not all 9-to-5ers in this neighborhood. As I said, I've been riding for a long time. I commute down to Humboldt almost the whole distance you're talking. So I live on Humboldt all the way down to Rollins Road every morning and usually back every night. If people are looking for another alternate place to ride, our Bay Trail is good, except for it's so bumpy you can't ride a bicycle comfortably at 10 miles an hour. Could our funds be directed to doing our Bay Trail, which is a nice trail along the waterway? And we also have a problem in this neighborhood is because you constantly keep allowing high density housing to come in, allowing people to split their properties, allowing people to build condominiums, and that just brings in more traffic. I have a condominium unit across from me that I told them that they're not going to use their tandem garages that they got the special permit for, and they went ahead and gave it to them, and they're parking all over the street, not using the garage.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Our next speaker is Jessica.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. I'm here tonight to express my support for this project and specifically for the inclusion of new bike lanes in the North Central neighborhood. These bike lanes are critical to developing a network of safe, connected bike lanes throughout the city. Without such, we can't expect people to shift from driving to walking and biking for neighborhood trips. One reason that my husband and I were excited to move to San Mateo 13 years ago was that the city is family-oriented and kid-friendly. This remains true to this day, but I'm concerned about the safety of my daughters and their friends when they're out riding their bikes. When spending time with her friends in the North Central neighborhood, I love that my eldest daughter gets around without being driven, but it simply isn't as safe as other places in the city. These kids deserve to be able to get around their neighborhood and to have a way to get to school without fearing for their safety. Again, please award the construction contract tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next speaker is Candace.
Hello. I live on the corner of Humboldt, North Humboldt, and Indian. And I just wanted to say that earlier someone mentioned about parking his car before 4 p.m. That's absolutely true. If I leave the house after 5 o'clock, I won't be able to get a parking space when I get back, and I have to park 2 blocks away. And just to mention, street cleaning days are horrible as well. Tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month. And on my side, which is the west side, we can't park. I have already moved my car at 9 o'clock this morning because I knew if I waited, I would never be able to find a parking space for street cleaning. What's going to happen? What are you guys going to do? I mean, I don't understand this. There has to be some kind of alternative parking measure for us. Parking permits, if you decide to do this, parking shelters, what's going to happen? And that should be decided before this project starts. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. The next speaker is Patricia Von Brun.
Hi, I am concerned about the significant parking removal. The loss will be significant on Humboldt, 170 spaces. Where will we park? In front yards, as has happened at 201 South Humboldt when the city allowed a conversion simply from a duplex to a triplex. The owner illegally paved over the grass, and now it's a parking lot for numerous cars and trucks. We've lost quality of life. I, along with others, strongly disagree with the data analysis that says there's capacity to absorb parking within side streets. I've lived here for over 40 years. It's difficult to find parking now, and the side streets are just as impacted. I've had to pay the city to red tip my driveway in order to be able to get in and out. Over the years, I've regularly seen and reported on vehicles parked 1 and 2 deep in red zones, including red zones with fire hydrants. This is totally unsafe. Before you vote on this, I strongly recommend you all drive through the side streets along Humboldt between 7 and 9 p.m. and see what capacity really exists. If you approve this project and the significant removal of parking spaces, how will you help mitigate the loss? Will you have designated parking stickers? And I'd like to adjust the safety. Given the recently constructed bulb outs and that the street is a major throughway for buses, large trucks, and semi-trailers, fire, police, and ambulances often travel at high speeds on Humboldt. I don't see that as safe. Anytime the freeway goes down, our street is impacted. I can't get in and or out. The Humboldt is backed up for blocks, and people get crazy and block the intersection. This is not going to be safe for bicyclists. And thirdly, Public Works needs to address the west side of South Humboldt at 2nd because water cooling is a problem.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jordan Grimes.
Good evening, Council. Just wanted to share my strong support of staff's recommendation to move forward with the bike lanes on Humboldt. There's been some discussion about the trade that we're making here. And to be clear, what we are trading is allowing people to park their privately owned vehicles in the public right-of-way for free. We are trading that for the safety of other road users, for fewer instances of serious injury and death. That is the trade that we are making here. This is not just about how many folks in the community are biking now, of which there are many, but also about how many more people can and will bike when we provide them with infrastructure that allows them to do so safely. The last thing I'll say is that there were a number of commenters that claimed that working class people need these parking spaces. And that's true to a certain extent. There are some working class people who need cars, but there are a great many others who don't. I grew up in a working class family here in San Mateo that certainly couldn't afford 2 cars. Go down to San Mateo High and to King Center and look at the bike racks. There are plenty of people at your nearest Samtrans stop who are using bikes. They're all working class folks. We are talking about taking a little bit of public space, a little bit back from cars and giving it to people on bikes. So I really hope that you'll consider that as you consider things tonight. And I hope you'll move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Seema Patel.
Good evening, City Council and staff. I want to note that I currently serve on the Planning Commission for the City of San Mateo, but my comments tonight are my own as a resident of the Central neighborhood. I'm commenting in strong support of the staff recommendation, specifically the bike lanes on North Humboldt. This project is solving a critical public safety problem. As others have noted, we've had a bicyclist who was placed in a coma. We've had a fatal car collision just within the last year on this street. My family lives 2 blocks from this project. We are primarily a bicycling family, and we also like to go to the Dragon Park down North Humboldt, and it's terrifying the entire time. Our route to preschool in the morning, we actually go down 5th and over San Mateo because it feels safer to ride through downtown than it does through a residential neighborhood. And I just don't think that's right. Especially a residential street that has a school on it. I think every street with a school on it should have a protected bike lane. We should be making the streets safer for our children, and the time to act is now before another person, or God forbid, a child gets hurt. I understand there's a lot of concerns about parking. From what I read online, there's a lot of concerns around storage of vehicles on North Humboldt. And I think we can continue to address those concerns, as staff said, while we move forward so that we don't lose that grant money. We could look at enforcing the 72-hour parking limit, which sounds like it's not happening currently. We could look at a residential permit program, again, enforced. We could partner with local businesses to make commercial lots available to residents after business hours. We could even partner with a company like 1-800-JUNK to help people clear out their garages and their driveways so that those facilities can be used as intended for car storage. Ultimately, we need to decide whether we want to subsidize cars by allowing free parking or subsidize environmentally sustainable transportation like bikes and walking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Madeline Frechette.
Hello, thank you, council members, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I live pretty close by next door in Burlingame, and I'm pretty involved with advocating for safer streets in general. Bike lanes are really, when we think about safe streets, at the tip, they're the tip of the iceberg in terms of like solutions. They're really something that we need today because we have such a serious car culture. So we need bike lanes as long as we have sort of the intensity that we have when it comes to motor vehicle traffic. So I'm calling in support tonight of pursuing really safe bike lanes over parking, and would just echo the sentiments we heard from Jordan Grimes and Ryan and so many others and Seema tonight. But I also, after hearing so many comments from the dissenters, I feel compelled to share a little bit about myself. I'm a survivor of traffic violence.
I'm sorry, your time is up, Madeline. Thank you. The next speaker is Clint.
Madam Clerk, briefly, could we ask people to please keep their cells muted until they're called on, please?
Yes, we will. Thank you very much. Clint, if you could go ahead.
Sure. So just wanted to follow up and echo a few of the things that others have mentioned, but also bring up a couple of other things. So I've lived in North Central San Mateo for over 40 years, and I highly disagree with the way that this bike lane will be laid out. I think that making room some way for the bicyclists, the few bicyclists that go through there is important, but not enough to take an entire side of Humboldt for that long of a distance to make room for a few of the bicyclists that do go through there. They should definitely, be given a safe passage, through the neighborhood. But I don't think we've explored enough ideas and enough of different ways to do it. On the new 28th Avenue between El Camino and Saratoga, there's a bike boulevard there. It's a much wider street. There's fewer cars there. You can always find parking there on both sides of the street every night that I pass through there. But that's only a bike boulevard, and it doesn't even have speed bumps like the other side of El Camino does on 28th. But also, I just wanted to echo the large group of working class families that use their vehicles for landscaping, housekeeping, Uber and DoorDash, limousine and taxi services. They live all throughout the North Central neighborhood, all throughout that artery there, that Humboldt, and then also the side streets. Also the high density housing that exists there in that area. And the large number of cars that are in the neighborhood now, and that number will only increase over the years. And once we put the bike lane in, it's going to be impossible to take that out or to do any real adjustments to it. And also, I believe that parking spaces are more important to working families than a bike lane that'll serve a few people that go through the neighborhood. We're talking about stripping away, 180 or so parking spaces.
Thank you, Clint.
24 hours a day
Thank
from
you.
people who live there and are.
Carol Steinfeld is the next speaker.
Hi, I ask everyone to support the protected bike lanes and traffic calming. I get the parking fears. I used to be in that boat in North Central with our one-car household. And after 8 years, we figured out how to create off-street parking. We did have to cut down a little orange tree. We also had several neighbors who kept cars on the street, even though they had driveways and garages. I know that's not the case for everyone. So this infrastructure also supports people like me who gave up a car and use a bike when I can, as well as the bicycling workers you see at a shift change around 8 or 9 p.m. around there. There's a lot of them. Please support this bike lane, and we can all work together to address parking. I think there are more solutions, and this is what a 21st century city requires and will all expect. And we don't want to lose this funding. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike Swire.
Hello, members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Also, Mayor Rodriguez. First of all, I wanted to say that I actually wanted to applaud Public Works and the notice that was given about this. I have 2 kids at San Mateo High School, and I've seen whenever I pass by several of the notices, the online codes that you're supposed to use to pull up information. I thought this was very well communicated. There was an article in the San Mateo Daily Journal this week, and of course the agendas have been online for the past couple of days. So I disagree with that statement. I also want to make sure the decision's made ASAP, because my understanding is that this is use it or lose it funding, and the funding doesn't come around too often. So it would be a shame to see that go away for whatever reason. Again, I'm a parent of 2 kids at San Mateo High School. I'm working with the PTO there and Superintendent Skelly to try to increase the safety of the streets there and get more kids to commute to school on foot and bike. And it's tough. We used to live in Palo Alto where 70% of the kids bike to school. And here we are in a flat area. And I go over the bike rack and I see a handful of bikes. And it's not because it's not flat, because it is. It's because that area is a nightmare. It's such a nightmare, actually, that when my daughter went for her driving test today, her driving instructor told us to go to Redwood City, because he said that area with the DMV at Amplet in that same neighborhood is just so crazy between all the cars on both sides and the narrow streets that it's very dangerous, and the fail rate's actually much higher. So I think that the council has to decide here, what do you want to do? This is a choice between safety and convenience. You can provide 24/7 access to hundreds or thousands of cyclists and motorists versus a handful of drivers that would like to park closer to their houses. This is where the city council has to put its foot down and say, we want to build a better world instead of just perpetuating more of the same. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. The next speaker is Lisa Rail.
Hi, council members. I am a resident of North Central, and I would like to speak in strong support of the proposed bike lanes. We desperately need safer bike infrastructure in this neighborhood. As others have acknowledged, bicycling rates here are already high, 90th percentile, and collisions and deaths are already at an unacceptable level. And yet people still bike here, even though it's unsafe because they have no other choice. But beyond that, I'd like to add another perspective and speak on behalf of the people who would want to bike but can't because we don't think it's safe. My husband and I have a young daughter, and we'd like to bike with her. Most of the trips we do are less than 1 mile. That's a 5-minute bike ride, but we don't feel safe biking, so we drive instead. And each time we drive, that creates more traffic and more demand for parking. I personally know others who live nearby who are in the same boat and would gladly bike if it were safer. And again, that would reduce traffic and parking demand for everyone else. Now, I hear parking is a concern, and I've myself had a hard time parking in the neighborhood. But as others have mentioned, there are ways to mitigate the impact. Residential parking permit programs would be very promising, for example. I believe there are ways we can work to make sure everybody who needs a place to park has a place while still making room for bicycle safety. So I strongly urge you not to delay this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next speaker is Chad.
Hi, thank you for your time. So I also live in North Central on Idaho, just off of Humboldt. And I just want to voice my opinion that I think that we need both. We need both safety for bicyclists and these bike lanes, but we also need parking. It is a densely packed neighborhood, as a number have said. I can look out my living room window and count at least 4, maybe 5 apartment units that are filled with 6 adults in 2-bedroom units. So where do you think all their cars are going to go? It's not that they have a choice to park off street. A lot of them are in service job sector, landscapers, housekeepers, construction. I'm not sure where they are expected to, I don't think they're going to backpack their tools to their job. They have to have on-street parking. I am glad that the parking study will in the future incorporate kind of a night thing. I think that's absolutely necessary because as it was designed the first time around, it was flawed. 7 to 7 in a residential neighborhood is precisely when you would expect cars to not be there. I frequently come home at 9 or later because of my job, and I circle a 4-block radius just prior to the pandemic. So I am in favor of a bike lane on Humboldt, but not at the expense of parking. I think there needs to be, I think there needs to be a both and solution. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Katie Lee.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for letting me speak. I live on North Humboldt Street for many years. I have 3 cars and 2 young kids. I strongly disagree to put a bike lane on the North Humboldt Street. Have you think about why there are so high collision rate on the North Humboldt Street? Because North Humboldt Street is connected to 101, and the nearby is the DMV. People on this street will drive over speed. So that's why there are so many car accidents on this street. Is that safe for the bicyclist to bike on this street? I don't think that's a good choice. This street is more busy than the street nearby. The cars need to go to 101, but bikes don't need to. Why the bikes have to bike on the North Humboldt Street? They can choose a smaller and less busy street nearby. And also, like many other residents had mentioned, we are working class, poor working class. Many of my neighbors are gardeners, contractors, and they have multiple cars. If you drive through North Humboldt Street during rush hour, during around 5 p.m., you will find the street are fully occupied. It's very hard to find a parking. So those people support this program. They don't live on North Humboldt Street. They are sacrifice other people's interest to satisfy their self. That's selfish. I don't agree. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ann Paulson.
Good evening. I'm Ann Paulson from Los Altos. I'm a cyclist. I don't drive, and I've ridden throughout the Bay Area for 40 years. I strongly support the bike lanes, and I support everything Jordan Grimes said. I understand that drivers like places to store their cars for free on public property, but streets are for travel. There are other ways to deal with parking issues, such as selling parking permits so that permit holders will always have a place to park. That seems better. We need to encourage active transportation. The many families who live in the neighborhood, mentioned by the other commenters, have kids who need to get to school. And we want to get cars off the street and let those kids walk or ride to school. We need to stop the carnage so that more cyclists feel safe while riding. There are plenty of places to store cars. Give us one north-south route where we cyclists don't have to fear for our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is telephone call ending in 600.
Can you hear?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear?
Hello, hi. My name is Trina Pierce. I live in North Central, but I had a question because when she was talking earlier, she had said that it sounds like they need to rush to get this bid through. So instead of losing so they don't lose the bid. So does that mean, or the funding? So does that mean you guys are going to do a thorough analysis on this, or are you just going to rush it through so we get the funding? Because now I have a problem because coming home sometimes when people, especially on the days for cleanup and you have to move your car, people park very close or beyond your driveway because they're trying to itch in there. So when I come home, I really have to squeeze in there, and sometimes I can't even fit in my driveway. And of course, we don't have the policemen around that can come and do that. They've got other things to do. So with this being done, it's just going to make things worse. It's going to make neighbors really upset and go out there and try to tell people to move their cars. And sometimes you don't even see them parked there. So it's just making it unsafe. It makes it hard for us to get out of our own driveways without hitting another car. So I'm just hoping that you guys do this analysis better before you worry about losing that funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sean and Laura Burke. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Sean Burke. I'm a union construction worker. I lived on the 300 block of Humboldt Street for about 7 years, and I live with my wife, Laura, and our 2 small children. And I just want to say that we're a single family home. We can fit both of our cars on our property, but most of our neighbors definitely cannot. And working in construction, I know that every project has a parking study, and you wouldn't approve a project without ample parking. And all of these people that live here, they're going to be displaced. And these are the people that we're supposed to be supporting. The government's supposed to be helping these people, giving them outreach programs, not what I would say is persecuting them. This is going to result in chaos and in unintended consequences because people are not going to have anywhere to park, and it's going to put an undue hardship on them, especially the mothers coming home with small children, the elderly women. A lot of our neighbors don't have backyards because there's living space built on it. There's people living in the garages, and these are all the people that live in our community. They're our neighbors. They go to our schools. They work at our restaurants and in our businesses. And, you know, I'm in support of a bike lane in theory. But like I say, I've lived here for 7 years and I've seen dozens of accidents on this portion of Humboldt. And people absolutely fly down these streets, and putting a bike lane is not going to be the solution to safety for the neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is the phone number ending in 573.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I actually live on North Grand Street, and I have seen in the time that I've moved in here how the parking spots have just seemed to disappear. Now that I have young children, I'm very concerned about the city taking away, actually the project taking away 214 parking spots, not just a handful of parking spots from our neighborhood, and directing the traffic into the side streets, making it even more unsafe for my children to play outside with their friends on the street, riding bicycles or playing basketball or catch. And I think that that's a real shame that we are taking away these outdoor living spaces and oppressing our neighbors into their backyards, which are non-existent because we have high density housing in this neighborhood. We have families bunched together in one small house, multiple families living together. And that's why our COVID rates were so high in North Central, because so many people live together with no outdoor space to go. You are also taking away the community feeling. I do support the bike lane, but you are taking away outdoor space for the community to come together. And also, there has been no communication to the neighborhood. I live in North Central, and I only found out about this because someone posted it on San Mateo Mom's Facebook group. And many, many people expressed concern that no communication has been given to the neighborhood at all. The safety of the cyclists and parking are two separate issues. We can have a bike lane, but you also need to consider the parking issue for people who have construction jobs where their tools are locked in their cars.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. The time is up. The next speaker is Don Smith.
Good evening, and thank you for letting us all know what's happening. I'm the pastor of the Sturge Presbyterian Church at 25 North Humboldt. And I guess our concern is that while a wonderful idea for a bike lane is being presented, we can't imagine what you'll do with all the cars that are parked on both sides of the street if the bike lane goes into place. If you have mitigation programs, then I think they should all be in place before a bike lane is added to the street. It's narrow, buses come in the morning and in the afternoon, and it is a very difficult street to imagine where all the cars will go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Parmananda Bista.
Hi. Good evening, council members. I live near the crossing of Humboldt and Santa Ynez Avenue. Because of all the parking near that intersection, so it's kind of hard to make any left or right turns. And I've seen like multiple accidents over like the past 4 years that I've been living here. So I agree with some of the commenters that like there are working class people, but what I've also seen is like there are like relatively high number of cars and trucks per some houses. So it does not mean that everybody has it, but a lot of people have like more cars than people in some of the houses. So I feel that bike lane will in fact reduce some of the accidents that we see on Humboldt, just because like when people try to make a left or right turn, they will at least see the cars, right? So the intersection is not blocked. So even though we would like to bike to Coyote Point, like due to like the high traffic and lack of bike lanes, so me and my kids, we are not able to bike to like some of the Coyote Point that we want to do. So I feel that even though the reduced parking will affect due to overflow parking coming to my street or the neighborhood, I think there are like more positives than negative. So we should try to address this parking in a separate way, find some creative ways to solve this issue. And also another thing is putting some more like four-way stop signs along the Humboldt will definitely reduce the accidents. So I hope the councilman will take all of this into consideration and not delay this project. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Adam Lorraine.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Adam Lorraine. I do happen to be a Sustainability and Infrastructure Commissioner with the City of San Mateo, but these comments are mine alone as a resident of San Mateo, and notably as a 10-year resident of North Central, who lives on the west side of North Humboldt, very near Tilton Avenue, where, as has been described by others, there was a critical accident on New Year's Day. The tape of which, as we saw in a Daily Journal article, I came back to after getting on a bike ride myself on that same day over to Coyote Point, and where a other serious collision occurred the year before near that winter of a pedestrian who was hurt very badly. And as a bike commuter to work in downtown San Mateo from North Central, and as a pedestrian commuter to the San Mateo downtown train station, I have managed to effectively remove my car from my commute. I wanted to thank the public for commenting and coming out tonight, both for those who commented in favor of bike ped safety improvements with this project, and for those who are voicing concerns of the real parking removal impacts this project has. They are my neighbors, and I think you can tell, and we know, that this will not be an easy project. It will not happen without some sacrifice. It's a big project for us. It's one of the first in a big, ambitious bike master plan. I do think it will benefit the neighborhood overall, but we need to do everything we can to mitigate the cost, to make sure it works as well as possible for this neighborhood. I appreciate staff's response to this commentary, what's been talked about today: more study, more outreach, more work identifying how we can make up for those spots, as mentioned by staff. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Eric Wolford. Sorry.
No problem. Hello. Thanks for the time to speak, and thank you for considering this issue. I am also a neighbor in the North Central neighborhood. My car is sitting on the street actively right now, and it's hard to find a spot. However, I speak to you in strong favor of this project. I am also a physician, a pediatrician, and I have seen the effects of traumatic brain injury on children after bike collisions with automobiles. It's horrible, and it's devastating to see something like that. Bike lanes will certainly improve the risk of bike collisions, and they will increase the rate of bicycle and pedestrian use of our streets. And I would also, coming from a perspective of having studied land use and how it affects public health, I would just like to say that active commuting is better for our community's health. Another thing that has come up among many people here is that, if we, build more parking, it's easier to store our cars. If we take away parking, it's a problem. There's a famous study of the Cato Freeway in Texas that they built to basically double the size of that freeway so that more cars could pass through. The commute times prior to the construction of the freeway were just as bad as they were after construction of the freeway, because if we build more storage space for cars, more cars will use them. If we build more storage space for bicycles and more active commuting options, more people will use them. And it'll make our community safer, and we'll see less kids have traumatic brain injuries. I'll reserve the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Clint S.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
All right. I just wanted to comment this evening as well with the other residents here. I'm strongly, I think it is a good idea to have more bike access, throughout the city. But I don't know if removing an entire side of one street in the working class neighborhood that is North Central on Humboldt of over 200 parking spaces is the correct way to do it. I don't know if it's because, now I don't want to say that it's because of the minorities and things that live there is the reason why it happened. But I've talked to a lot of neighbors in this area, in this neighborhood, and a lot of them don't know about it. They just don't have the time to go out and do the kind of research that other people seem to have a lot of time to do and to study. I talked to a lot of our Spanish neighbors, our other neighbors that are out here, and they hadn't heard anything about it. If you look at the parking today, this evening, it's already fully packed. And if we remove 200 some odd parking spaces, it's only going to get worse. And also, like on 28th Avenue in San Mateo, there's a bike boulevard there, and it allows for parking for the residents and room for the bicyclists. And there's townhomes up and down that street on 28th Avenue, and they seem to get along just fine there. And it's a much wider street and things like that. Also, the high density housing there in the area, that number is only going to increase as rent continues to go up. There's only going to be more high density, people that live there in that area, bringing more cars in. And also, I think neighborhood problems, they're likely to increase as well, as the few parking spaces that increased that are existing now are even going to be less.
Thank you, Clint. The next speaker is the Angeli family.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Good evening. What I think a lot of people don't understand is that this project went into effect or started to go like 8 years ago, and the data collection was taken from 2013 to 2017, and things have changed tremendously in the last 2 years alone. So I'm glad that the parking data collection is being revisited. I think that's very important. We're very concerned with safety in the crosswalks. We're on the corner of Highland and Poplar. There is no crosswalk between El Camino and San Mateo Drive. There are 3 intersections, Wisdom, Highland, and Elm. And speed bumps would certainly help along Poplar there, but crosswalks just seem like it would be humane. We are residents here, and we should be able to cross the street safely. So as this paving project goes in, I hope that crosswalks are considered and put in for our safety, let alone the biking project that's being considered. We see a lot of car accidents here along Poplar, car accidents, not just bike accidents. My other comment is, I'm looking at the map. Why are there 2 parallel bike lanes being provided on East Bellevue as well as Poplar? Poplar's very, very busy, whereas Bellevue is very quiet, and both of them end at San Mateo High. Furthermore, we'd like to ask that if this is going to go forward, that a residential parking permit would be fast-tracked for these streets that are fully impacted by this program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Don G is the next speaker.
You hear me? Okay. Thanks for giving me the time to speak. I think it's not a good idea, just the purpose to protect people riding bicycle by remove so many parking spaces. And people mentioned very, very busy the street right now is and if you go to the and also in the morning, from Monday to Friday, it's a lot of a car drive and to the parking lot of the College Park Elementary School. Right now, it's still a parking space here. If you remove so many parking spaces, how do you think? There's more and more car is blocked in the avenue. That is, the car cannot move, and the parent drop of the student there we get more risk for the student. And I think the good solution I think you should think about is the busy street. Why is there so many, as you mentioned, there's like sitting there? Because the car drive too fast. You should think about how to slow down the vehicle and to build more stop signs there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we have 3 more hands raised, but they've already given public testimony on this item.
Okay, well, we need to be fair with everybody, and I do not think that we should allow people to speak twice on this. All right, so if there's nobody else, I'd like to close public comment and bring it to City Council for additional questions or comments to begin the discussion on this. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. I'm happy to kick off this conversation. It seemed to me, based on a lot of the public comment, that I don't think that there was a clear understanding of the decision point here tonight. So, Sue Ellen, I wanted to ask for you to please reiterate what is coming before council tonight, because I think while the opportunity for so many neighbors to weigh in and hear very divergent perspectives is very worthwhile. It wasn't really speaking to where we are today and what is agendized. So I just, before we get into the remarks part, I just felt like it would be really important to make sure that that is re-clarified.
We're happy to. Tonight, we're asking council to award the contract for this project, which includes the pavement maintenance and includes traffic signal detection, curb ramp installation, and the bike improvements that we've described. As part of that construction sequencing for that project, this would allow us to get started on the pavement work and the curb ramps, which take time, and we have weather restrictions. We have to do the work when it's not during the rainy season. That gives us the opportunity to do the additional parking data analysis, as has been discussed by several public speakers, do additional community outreach with the community, and look at parking supply options, including several that the community members have mentioned, like permit programs or shared parking options with existing parking facilities. Did that answer your question?
Yes. So I think that the point of clarification that's needed is that the approval of the contract tonight is also includes revisiting and a further analysis and study of both our parking impact data that we collected, and also looking at parking support or mitigation options. Is that clear? Is that accurate?
Yes, the construction timeline gives us time to get started, do the additional analysis, and bring that feedback to council and commission in winter 2022.
Okay, so it's possible that the design or the number of parking spots will change based on the study.
The design has been completed. The additional study would be parking data collection. As many commenters shared, we did not do overnight counts. We did, as industry standard, we did 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But we do want to go ahead and do those overnight counts to determine the demand overnight, and have the ability to do additional outreach and look into additional supply options.
Okay, and so, and there was another question about sequencing, and so trying to help community members understand, how would the implementation and rollout work in terms of sequencing the parking supply programs with the project implementation?
That would be determined when we've evaluated the parking supply and brought back options for council feedback and direction. We don't have at this time what that timeline would be in terms of implementation because we haven't identified final options yet. But I think that we would have more information on that when we come back to you in the winter. And again, the bike lane improvements would be toward the end of the timeline, which is spring, probably towards summer.
I see. Okay. So does anyone have any other questions, clarifying questions? Okay.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla. Mute.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make it even maybe just a little bit clearer if we could. Okay. The vote to approve tonight, if that's the council's choice, would simply be to authorize the construction company to repair the road surfaces. Is that correct?
The vote tonight would be for the agreement with the construction contractor, the scope of which includes, at present, the pavement rehabilitation, surfacing, the curb ramps, etc. It also currently includes the bike improvements. Those bike improvements would not be implemented until after we've come back to council.
Okay, that's good. That's a little simpler. That answers my question. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions or comments? Anybody want to? All right. All right. I guess I'll start with my comments then. You know, since I've joined the city council now, I guess 4 years ago, the top quality of life issues and concerns that I constantly hear from residents are by far the number one is traffic congestion. And more recently, we're hearing a lot more about neighborhood pedestrian cyclist safety and parking, of course, throughout our city, our downtown and through the neighborhoods. And a question that I often get at everywhere, speaking with the various neighborhoods is, okay, so what are you and what are you in this and what is the city doing to address these issues? Because what we're doing right now is not necessarily working. And the only way to address these issues, especially the traffic component, is to figure out how to get more cars off the road. And if we somehow could magically, even if we could somehow magically stop all new development, that would still not fix our current situation. We would still have at least the traffic is as bad as it is now, especially as we get more further into the recovery. And this city council and past city councils and city staff has been working on this for many years. And one of the ways to get cars off the road and incent less demand for parking is to provide residents with alternatives, safe alternatives. And biking on a safer bike lane, I don't say completely safe because I think all these lanes could be improved in the future, but I think biking is a safe, biking on a bike lane is one of the most promising alternatives. But the way I see it is the challenge of creating bike lanes as alternatives to cars is that we have a chicken and egg problem. Cities have a hard time justifying investing in and making the necessary trade-offs to create bicycle infrastructure until they know enough people will use it, taking cars off the road. However, the majority of people who would regularly ditch their cars for a bike would not do so unless the necessary biking safety infrastructure is in place. And my family fits into that category. So that's a dilemma to date. And we and many of our neighboring cities have said we don't need to create bike lanes because not enough people will use them. Well, I think we are at the point where inaction is just not really an option. We cannot continue to do the same things and expect different results. And one way to attack this chicken and egg problem is to start somewhere and to start small and see what happens. And in several years, perhaps we'll see a steady increase in ridership that will make it easier to justify investing in more bike lanes. Maybe the opposite will happen, but I think it's worth a start. And with staff's recommendation to expand the data collection and looking into the parking programs and to conduct more outreach, I think that we can mitigate some, not all, but some of the concerns that were brought here tonight. So therefore, I'm going to be supporting the staff's recommendation. There's this last 2 points I want to quickly make. First is that I've heard from many residents, I've got many calls on this, many emails, as I know all the council members did, that they would never trade in their car for a bike. And I have no doubt that that is true for many. It is understandable and okay. I don't expect my senior mother to give up her car and start biking everywhere because we add a couple of class 2 bike lanes. But these folks can still benefit. We all can benefit if others begin to ditch their cars for a bike. For every person that decides to do that, that's one less car off the road and one less car competing for parking spots. And second, I just wanted to say, I think that we are going to need to be patient with this. We can't expect our city to look like Amsterdam or Davis overnight if we add a couple of bike lanes. It's going to take time for our community to adjust their biking patterns. It's going to take time to see if this is going to work. So those are my comments. Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Thank you very much. I want to add a little context, maybe a little history to this conversation. Back in 2001, when we started talking about Bay Meadows, way before any ground was broken, while the horses were still racing, the whole idea of building that transit-oriented development, that new neighborhood, which has 18 out of 83 acres of parks and green open spaces, which is bikeable, walkable, a compact and yet dense neighborhood. That is a neighborhood that the people who live there love, okay? At that time, the discussion started about how can we move people throughout the city to alternative modes of transportation. Because we knew at the time that we need to take advantage of things like Caltrain, of buses, of bicycling, of walking. Because at that time, the effects of climate change were already being seen. Climate change is an interesting thing because most people now agree it's having severe negative impacts on us. But most people disagree when it comes to taking some action that's going to start actually doing something positive about it. 50% of the emissions that are causing our greenhouse gas issues that come from the area where we live now come from using cars and, believe it or not, lawn and gardening equipment. A lot of it, almost as much as what comes from the cars. That's a separate issue. We're not worried about parking lawnmowers and leaf blowers. But the truth is, the simple truth is, we have to start somewhere. We're planning on it. We've been planning on it for a long time. I remember when Councilmember Goethals and I were on the Public Works Commission back in 2010, and we actually were party to plans that were the Complete Streets Plan, the Green Streets Plan. These plans, which called for making our streets safer, safe enough that people would feel that they could ride a bike. And I can't agree with the mayor more. Okay. As individuals see that it's safe and start riding bikes, then the people who are concerned about there being too many cars on the road and, well, they have to drive fast when they can because they're trying to get somewhere, will feel less of that kind of pressure because there will be fewer cars on the road as this transition takes place. It will not happen overnight or by next year. It's going to be a transition that takes, I think, a decade at least. But we have to start doing something, okay? So, and there's much more I could say about this, but I strongly support taking advantage of the grant that's being offered that we could lose if we spend more time studying here. I do support and intend to vote in favor of this project. We're creating good jobs doing the things that we need. And It's like when you go to the doctor's office, you don't necessarily want a shot, but you get one because you know you're going to get healthy after it. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to start out by saying that, this project does personally impact me and my neighborhood. I know firsthand how hard it is to park. I'll tell you right now, I would bet my life that there's no parking in front of my house right now. And I can also say that, I use a bicycle. My kids use bikes, and most often when given the choice, we scoot because it's safer. It's safer to scoot on the sidewalk than it is to bike on the street. And we had a very traumatic experience witnessing a child in my kid's school get hit by a car right in front of us. So this is not an abstraction. This is something in my daily experience, in my community, in my neighborhood. And we're at a crossroads. I mean, this is, we are in a climate crisis, and we need to address our goals. We need to meet our goals of becoming a climate resilient community. And that does require us to reimagine our built community. And there are trade-offs, and trade-offs mean sacrifices. I've heard arguments from neighbors on both sides saying that this project is going to promote safety, it's going to endanger people's safety, it's going to promote the environment, it's actually going to, it's going to cause more traffic and more pollution, it's going to further equity, it's going to send us backwards. So there's a lot of arguments on both sides. For me, where I am with this is that we do need further analysis. And I'm concerned that what I'm hearing from staff is that basically we're looking to conduct an analysis, but with a caveat that the design won't change. And that's concerning to me. I feel like we need to support data-based decision-making. And if what the analysis shows is that the parking impact cannot be absorbed, then we need to be able to pivot. And I think, maybe I'm misunderstanding. I mean, Azalea, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director. Yes, the intent here is to award the contract as proposed, which includes the pavement work and the bicycle improvements. However, because the construction sequence allows us to implement the bicycle infrastructure later, we will come back to you with the data gathering, the parking, assessment, and we will ask you to see if we should pivot then. Okay. So that is the point of clarification there. Okay. So we have an opportunity with the construction sequencing.
Okay, then that's really helpful to understand that clarification, because I think that there's a lot of mistrust in government, and there's a lot of concern from the North Central neighborhood about a legacy of disinvestment or difference in the way this community is treated, and I want us to be operating in good faith and show the community that we are willing to listen. This is an example of us listening, and this is an example of us going back and doubling back on our own processes to make sure that we can get this right. So I'm very interested I will vote to approve this project. I appreciate the sequencing. I appreciate the process that we're going through. Personally, I want to emphasize and prioritize the issue of sequencing, so that when we roll out this project, that we're also doing it in conjunction with reimagined or reconfigured residential parking programs. Right now, the way the residential parking program is conceived is really kind of driven by commercial impacts, so commercial business impacts, and it also isn't overnight. And so there are limitations in terms of what makes a community or neighborhood eligible. And then there's also limitations in terms of the hours that it is applicable. Those are two very concrete points that I think that could be, further analyzed and folded into a revised RPP program. Furthermore, I know that there's so many neighbors. I mean, I myself have had to call like a towing company, or thought about calling a towing company at one point when I couldn't even pull out of my driveway. And it really came down to the striping program. And so maybe there's another opportunity for us to think about, subsidizing striping for community members that are directly impacted or within a radius of this project. I think that's, it's probably a nominal cost that would go a long way in terms of preserving people's quality of life. And furthermore, I think that as we go back and gather information about where are there pedestrian hotspots that feel unsafe, making sure that we're folding in the pedestrian traffic calming measures and making that known and clear so that people understand, the community understands that that's also within scope of this project. And so, I think that overall, as we go through this project every step, we'll find a way to make this project net out in the positive. And I look forward to learning more and hearing more about the traffic analysis. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments on this? Okay, I think, do we need a motion?
Yes.
I guess I will entertain.
Make a motion to approve.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you especially to all the members of the public that participated tonight. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a closed session item. It's conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation.
Can we go to closed session? Sorry.
Did you want to take reports and announcements first, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I did, but I wanted to take public comment first on the closed session.
Oh, all right.
I should do that, right?
Sure, that works.
Okay. All right. So if you would like to comment on the closed session that we're about to go into, before we go into it, now would be the time to raise your hand. And I think those folks already had their hand raised, so I don't see any new ones. So should we see do you think they want to comment on this? I don't know. Madam Clerk, do you want to, I'm not sure if they just have their hands up or if they want to actually comment on this. I'm assuming they don't, but.
I think they wanted to comment on the last item.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just move on. So I'm going to close public comment. And before we go into closed session, let's do reports and announcements. So anybody have any reports and or announcements? I'm not seeing any.
I have an announcement, Mr. Mayor.
Please, go ahead.
So, last Friday, at a meeting of the City Selection Committee, which consists of the mayors of all 20 cities in San Mateo County, I was successful in seeking reappointment to the Association of Bay Area Governments Regional Planning Committee. It's a 3-year term. It's an assignment and a responsibility that I take very seriously because we're planning for the future of the entire 9-county Bay Area. The main activity there is the Plan Bay Area 2050, where we're working to align everything, basically, starting with housing, transportation, jobs, the environment, the economy, and equity. It's a huge planning undertaking, and it's a very serious effort. The committee consists of about 35 people. I've been on that committee for 2 years already. We're doing a lot of really great work, and I'm very proud of it. So I just want to let everybody know that I'm very happy to continue serving there. Thank you.
Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Bonilla, on that appointment. Okay, I wanted to bring up something. I wanted to ask for concurrence in bringing an agenda item forward at the next meeting to consider inviting non-member cities, Menlo Park, Portola Valley, and Woodside of Peninsula Traffic Congestion Relief Alliance, or commute.org, to join the JPA. It's something that they requested, and it requires council action, and staff requested that we put this on. So can I get concurrence on that? We don't need a huge discussion, I don't think.
I can just say a couple words though, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Sure. So I serve as the chair of the finance committee there. I've been on, it's known as commute.org basically, for the last 5 or 6 years. We do a lot of good work. We actually manage the TMA at the Bay Meadows project, and we'd like to do more here if we could. But anyway, it's very important to get these last 3 cities in the county involved, because they live in the farther reaches of the county where people who go there to work don't have adequate transportation to get there. They need shuttle service, they need bus service, they need some people who are elected to advocate for these services for them. So, and these cities have indicated they're interested in joining, but we do need concurrence of all the member agencies, which we are one. So I recommend concurrence. Thank you.
Everybody else? Yes? Good. Okay, I think we have concurrence there. All right, we are going to go into closed session now. So on Teams. See everybody there.